You know, some cars are so much more than just metal, glass, and rubber. They're like rolling sculptures, right? They're time capsules of pure ambition and innovation from a whole different era. So today, we're going to dive into the passionate world of these automotive ghosts, these incredible cars that were left behind when their parent companies vanished, and the amazing people who just refused to let them die. Okay, to get us started, I've got a little question for you. I want you to think back to the golden age of American car design. We're talking the late 1950s. The fins were getting bigger, the chrome was absolutely everywhere, and luxury was king. But what was the one car that was so ridiculously over the top, it actually cost more than a Rolls-Royce? If you guessed this absolute beauty, you are spot on. This is the 1957 Cadillac Eldorado Brougham, and its price tag was a jaw-dropping $13,074. Now, to put that in perspective, a brand new Rolls-Royce saloon back then, that was about $9,000. This caddy was playing in a totally different league. So, what on earth made this car so expensive? Well, Cadillac wasn't just building another car. They were trying to build what they called the most advanced automobile ever built. This was supposed to be a dream car that you could actually go out and buy, taking all those wild concepts from the auto shows and putting them right in the showroom. And this is where it gets really wild. I mean, look at these features. We're talking about technology that still feels pretty modern today. It had air suspension for this buttery smooth ride, the first ever memory power seats. Get this, a glove box with magnetized drinking cups so they wouldn't rattle around. It even came with a perfume atomizer filled with fancy French perfume from Paris. No wonder guys like Frank Sinatra and John Wayne had to have one. And just look at this interior. I mean, this was the absolute peak of personal luxury. You could choose from 44 different leather and upholstery combinations. Everything, and I mean everything about the Brougham was designed to make you feel like you were driving a car from the future that had somehow landed in your driveway. But, and this is a big but, here's the twist in the story. This incredible monument to automotive genius was also a spectacular business failure. You could say Cadillac's ambition kind of flew a little too close to the sun on this one. The Brougham Owners Association really puts it best. The car was so complicated and so meticulously hand-built that even with that sky-high price, Cadillac was losing a ton of money on every single one they sold. So how many did they end up selling? Well, this number really says it all. Just 704. That's it. Only 704 Eldorado Broughams were made in the 2 years it was produced. It was an absolute masterpiece of engineering, but a total commercial disaster, which of course makes it one of the rarest Cadillacs ever built. And the story of the Brougham, this car whose incredible ambition just couldn't match reality, it's the perfect gateway into this whole other fascinating category of classic cars. They're known as orphan cars. The definition is pretty simple. An orphan car is just a vehicle whose parent company doesn't exist anymore. So think of brands like Studebaker, Packard, Hudson, or even DeLorean. These were once household names, but they've all vanished, leaving their amazing creations behind without a home. And what's really cool is seeing how vibrant the community is around these cars. You have entire events, like this orphan car show, that pop up just to celebrate these automotive ghosts. The variety is just unbelievable. So let's take a look at a few of the more famous ones. First up, the Edsel. Ford launched this car in 1957 with one of the most expensive marketing campaigns in history. But the public, well, they hated that weird-looking grille, and it became this legendary case study in corporate failure. But ironically, today, that very failure is what makes it such a cool and distinctive collector's car. And then, of course, there's the DeLorean. A lot like the Brougham, it was this wildly ambitious dream project that just completely failed in the marketplace. But its crazy futuristic look, that stainless steel body, and those gull-wing doors, they were made immortal by Back to the Future, which just goes to show you that sometimes a car's second act is way more legendary than its first. And some of these orphans are just wonderfully, beautifully weird. Take the German-built Amphicar. It promised you the freedom of the road and the water. Now look, it wasn't a great car, and it really wasn't a great boat. But the fact that it even dared to do both, that makes it completely unforgettable. It's a total triumph of charming absurdity. And you can't talk about orphans without mentioning Studebaker. The models from the early 50s looked like absolutely nothing else on the road. The design was inspired by fighter planes, right down to that famous bullet nose. It was this bold vision of the future, coming from a company that sadly didn't really have one. So that brings up a really important question. Who takes care of all these automotive orphans? And that leads us to our final section, the passionate, dedicated collectors who pour their hearts and souls into keeping these machines on the road. For pretty much every orphan car you can think of, there's a club for it, just like the Brougham Owners Association. But these really aren't just car clubs. They're more like support networks, historical societies, and maybe even part-time detective agencies, all rolled into one, all just trying to help each other keep these amazing cars running. But owning one is a constant battle between the dream and the reality. I mean, the dream is obvious. You're cruising around in a rolling piece of history. But the reality? Oh man, you can't just walk into an auto parts store and ask for a part. Every single repair becomes a quest that takes patience, money, and a whole global network of other owners. This little parts wanted section from a Brahm newsletter just makes the challenge so real. I mean, forget about finding an engine block. Someone here is desperately searching for just the cigarette case for their 57 Brahm. That's the level of detail and difficulty these owners are dealing with every single day. So why do they do it? Why go through all that trouble? I think this quote from Al Dowling, the president of the Brougham Owners Association, just sums it up perfectly. They don't really see themselves as just owners. They see themselves as custodians, as guardians, preserving a real, tangible piece of history and art so that we can all see it and enjoy it. When you get right down to it, these cars aren't just orphans. They're survivors. Every single one has a story of ambition, of failure, and of resurrection. They only exist today because of the sheer passion of their keepers. And that leaves all of us with one final thought. As these keepers get older, who's going to step up to preserve these incredible time capsules for the future?